As I cleaned up Tom's study, I felt happy. Tom and I were married now, and I loved our new life together. We hadn't been married long, only a few months, but I felt safe with him. We had our own little routines, and everything seemed perfect. I loved finding ways to make our home feel cozy and clean. Today, I decided to dust his study, a room he used mostly for work and reading. I didn't go in there much, so I thought it could use a little extra care. As I reached for a shelf to dust, my elbow accidentally hit a small, wooden box, tipped over and spilled open on the desk. Papers, cards, and letters slipped out, and I quickly bent down to pick them up, feeling a bit guilty for causing a mess. But as I lifted one of the papers, I noticed it was a letter. Curiosity got the better of me, and I looked closer. The handwriting was Tom's. I read a few lines, and suddenly, I froze. The letter was written to someone named Emily. Emily. I knew that name. Emily was Tom's ex-girlfriend. He had told me about her once very briefly, saying she was someone from his past, someone he had loved but moved on from. I never thought much about her after that. But here in my hands was a letter he had written to her, full of warm, loving words. My heart started to pound as I looked at the date. It was from a few years ago before we met. I tried to calm myself down. It was only one letter. Maybe he just kept it for memory's sake. But as I put it back in the box, I noticed more letters, all in Tom's handwriting, all addressed to Emily. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to close the box and forget I'd ever seen it. But another part of me, the part that felt hurt and confused, couldn't look away. I wanted to understand. Why did he keep these letters? Did he still have feelings for her? I sat down in his chair and carefully picked up another letter. This one was dated just a few months before we met. I started reading. "Dear Emily," it began. "I think of you often, more than I probably should. I wonder how you are and if you are happy. I wish I could have done things differently with you." My heart sank as I read each word. Tom was talking about his regrets, about how much he missed her. It hurt to see these words, to feel like I was reading something too private, too personal. But now that I had started, I couldn't stop. I wanted to know what he really felt, even if it was painful. I took a deep breath and picked up another letter. This one was from a year before we met, and it was even more emotional. "Emily, sometimes I think about the future we could have had together." It read. "I wonder what our life would be like now, if we had stayed together." I felt tears forming in my eyes. Was this the man I had married? A man who still dreamed of a life with someone else? I tried to tell myself that everyone has a past, that it's normal to have memories, even feelings, for old loves. But something about these letters felt too strong, too real. Then, something made me stop. I noticed a letter at the very bottom of the pile. It looked newer than the others. My hands shook as I picked it up and checked the date. This letter was only a few months old, just before our wedding day. I felt my heart race even faster. This wasn't just a letter from the past. This was recent. I couldn't help myself. I had to know what it said. I unfolded the letter and began to read. "Dear Emily," it began, like all the others. "I don't know if I'll ever send this letter. I just need to get these feelings out. I'm about to start a new life with Sarah, and she makes me happy. But sometimes, I wonder if I'm really ready to let go of the past. You were such an important part of my life, and I don't know if I can forget that." The words felt like a punch in my chest. Here was Tom, just days before our wedding, still wondering if he was ready to marry me, still thinking about Emily. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. I didn't know what to think or feel. Was our whole relationship a lie? Was I just the second choice, the woman he settled for because he couldn't be with the one he truly loved? I sat there, holding the letter in my hands, feeling lost and hurt. Part of me wanted to confront him right then and there, to ask him why he would marry me if he still loved someone else. But another part of me was scared of what he might say. What if he admitted it? What if he told me that he loved Emily more than he loved me? I took a shaky breath and wiped my tears. I needed to calm down, to think about what to do next. I knew I couldn't ignore this, but I wasn't ready to talk to Tom about it yet. I had too many questions, too many emotions swirling inside me. I felt betrayed, confused, and insecure all at once. How could I go back to feeling normal after reading these letters? Finally, I made a decision. I would read every single letter in that box. I needed to know the whole truth, to understand what Tom felt, even if it hurt. Maybe if I read them all, I could find some answers. Maybe I would see that he truly loved me, that these letters were just a way to let go of his past. Or maybe I would find out that I was right to feel worried, that his heart was never truly mine. I sat in Tom's study, surrounded by his letters to Emily. I knew I should put them back, close the box, and forget about everything. But I couldn't. My heart felt heavy, and I needed to understand. If Tom still had feelings for Emily, I had to know. I reached for another letter and unfolded it. This one was from 3 years ago. I began reading, feeling a strange mix of curiosity and fear. Dear Emily, it started just like the others. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever meet someone like you again. You were my best friend, and I feel lost without you. I miss the way you laughed, the way you made me feel like I was the only person in the world. I wish I hadn't let you go. I swallowed, feeling a lump in my throat. These words felt so real, so full of love. I tried to tell myself that it was only natural for him to feel that way in the past. But it still hurt. Was I that person for him now? Or was I just a shadow? Someone who could never be what Emily was? I put that letter down and picked up another. This one was from 2 years ago. Emily, I thought time would make things easier. But it hasn't. I keep thinking about what we had and how happy I was with you. I know we had our problems, but I don't think I'll ever love anyone the way I loved you. My hands trembled. He said he would never love anyone like her. Those words made me feel small, like I wasn't important enough, like I would never be enough for him. I loved Tom so much, and it hurt to think that he didn't feel the same way about me. As I read each letter, I felt myself sinking deeper into sadness and doubt. I tried to tell myself that these were just old memories, just things from his past. But every word seemed to say that his love for her was still alive, that it hadn't faded, even after all this time. Finally, I picked up the last letter in the stack. I looked at the date. It was the most recent one, the one he had written just a few months before our wedding. I felt my heart race as I unfolded it. This letter could tell me the truth, could show me what he really felt about us. Dear Emily, it began, I am about to marry someone new, someone who is kind and loving. Sarah is wonderful, and she makes me happy. But as I get closer to the wedding, I feel a part of me is still with you. I don't know if I can ever let you go completely. I wish I could, but I don't know how. I felt tears slipping down my cheeks. Even as he prepared to marry me, he was still thinking of her. He still felt connected to her, even as he promised to be with me forever. My heart felt like it was breaking. How could he love me and still feel this way about someone else? I sat there, feeling lost and alone. I had trusted Tom completely, believed that he loved me as much as I loved him. But now, after reading these letters, I wasn't so sure. I didn't know if I could go on pretending that everything was okay. I didn't know if I could live with the feeling that I was just a second choice. I put the last letter down and wiped my eyes. I needed to decide what to do next. Should I talk to him? Should I tell him how I felt? Or should I keep this to myself, trying to move on and forget? But how could I forget something that felt so real, so painful? I thought about Tom, about all the happy times we had shared. I remembered our first date, our long talks, our laughter. I remembered how safe he made me feel, how much he made me smile. But now, those memories felt shadowed by doubt. Was all of it real, or was he still wishing he was with her? As I sat in that room, surrounded by letters full of Tom's past love, I felt myself slipping into a place of sadness and confusion. I wanted to believe in us, in our marriage, but these letters made it so hard. I didn't know what the future held for us, but I knew one thing. I couldn't keep this to myself forever. I had to find out the truth. And as much as it scared me, I knew I would have to face Tom and ask him if his heart was truly mine. The next day, I could barely look at Tom. Every time he spoke to me or smiled, I felt the words of those letters echoing in my mind. I wanted to pretend everything was fine, to smile back at him and go on with our usual routine. But I couldn't. I couldn't shake the feeling that he still loved her, that I was only filling the empty space she left behind. All day, my mind was heavy with questions and doubts. I knew I couldn't live like this, feeling so lost and unsure. I knew I had to talk to him, even though I was afraid of what he might say. I wanted the truth, even if it hurt me. I needed to know if his heart truly belonged to me, or if it was still with her. That evening, after dinner, I took a deep breath and decided it was time. We were sitting on the couch, watching a show, but I could barely focus on what was happening on the screen. My heart was pounding, and I felt nervous, but I turned to him and spoke. "Tom, can we talk?" I asked, my voice shaking a little. He looked at me surprised. "Of course," he said, his face showing concern. "What's wrong?" I took a breath, trying to calm myself. "Yesterday, when I was cleaning your study, I found a box with letters you wrote to Emily," I said quietly. His face changed, and I saw a flash of surprise and worry in his eyes. He looked away, rubbing his hands together. For a moment, he didn't say anything, and I felt my heart sink even more. "I didn't mean to read them," I continued. But when I saw them, I couldn't stop. I needed to know." He looked back at me, his face full of mixed emotions. "I didn't know you saw those," he said softly. "I thought I had put them away." "I know you didn't mean for me to see them," I replied, trying to stay calm. "But Tom, I read them, and now I don't know what to think. I don't know if I am enough for you." He sighed and looked down, his shoulders tense. "Sarah, those letters, they were just memories. I kept them because it was hard to let go. But they don't mean I don't love you." "But in one of the letters, you said you didn't know if you could let go of her," I said, my voice breaking. "You wrote that just before our wedding. How can I believe you love me if you still feel that way?" Tom looked at me, his face serious and sad. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I wrote those things because I was still trying to deal with my feelings. I know it sounds bad, but Emily was a big part of my life. Took me time to move on. But I married you because I wanted to start a new life with you. I wanted us to be happy." I could feel tears welling up in my eyes again. "But do you still love her?" I asked, my voice almost a whisper. He took a long pause, looking down as if searching for the right words. "No, Sarah," he said finally, looking me in the eyes. "I don't love her anymore. I loved her once, but that's in the past. You are my wife now. You are the one I love, the one I want to be with." I wanted to believe him, to feel his words were enough to make everything okay. But a part of me still felt hurt, still felt insecure. "Then why keep the letters, Tom?" I asked. "Why hold on to something if you truly let go?" He looked down, fidgeting with his hands. "Maybe I kept them as a reminder," he said quietly. "A reminder of the mistakes I made so I wouldn't make them again. I didn't want to lose you because of my past. I wanted to learn from it." I tried to understand, to see his side of things. But the pain in my heart didn't disappear so easily. I looked away, wiping a tear from my cheek. I just wish you had told me, Tom. I wish you had been honest with me from the beginning." He nodded, looking guilty. "I know, Sarah. I should have told you. I was afraid. I didn't want you to think that you weren't important to me because you are. You're everything to me." We sat in silence for a few moments, each lost in our own thoughts. I wanted to feel close to him again, to feel like everything was okay between us. But I knew it would take time for me to trust him fully, to let go of the pain these letters had caused. Finally, he reached out and took my hand. "Please, Sarah," he said softly. "Give me a chance to make it up to you. Let me prove to you that I am here, that I love you and only you." I looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. I wanted to believe him, to feel like our love could be strong enough to move past this. I nodded slowly, squeezing his hand. "Okay, Tom," I said, my voice still shaky. "I'll try, but I need time. I need to feel that you're truly here with me, not still holding on to her." He nodded, understanding. "Take all the time you need," he said, pulling me into a gentle hug. "I'm not going anywhere." In that moment, I felt a small spark of hope. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I wanted to try. I wanted to give us a chance, even if it took time to rebuild the trust that had been broken. As we sat there, holding each other in silence, I felt a mix of emotions: hope, sadness, and a faint feeling of relief. We still had a long way to go, but I was ready to take that journey, step by step, with him by my side. The next day, I tried to keep myself busy, doing anything to distract my mind. Tom and I had talked, but the pain of those letters was still fresh. I knew it would take time to feel normal again, to feel secure in our marriage. I wanted to trust him, to believe his words, but a part of me still felt afraid. Afraid that I would never be enough, that I would always be second to someone else in his heart. As I went about my day, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from an old friend, Emma, who lived nearby. We hadn't seen each other in a while, so I was surprised to hear from her. I opened the message, expecting a simple hello, but her words shocked me. "Did you know Emily is back in town?" My heart skipped a beat. Emily? Back in town? My mind started racing with a mix of fear and doubt. What did this mean? Would Tom want to see her? Would he want to talk to her, maybe reconnect? All the insecurities I had been trying to push down came rushing back. I felt a cold knot in my stomach as I thought about what this could mean for us. I knew I had to talk to Tom about it. If I kept it to myself, the worry would only grow. But I was scared. What if this changed everything? What if he wanted to see her again, even just to talk? I didn't want to lose him, but the fear was so strong. That evening, after dinner, I gathered my courage and decided to bring it up. We were sitting together, and I turned to him, feeling my heart pound in my chest. "Tom," I began slowly, "I got a message from Emma today. She told me that Emily is back in town." Tom looked at me, surprised. For a moment, I saw a flicker of something in his eyes, something I couldn't read. He took a deep breath and looked away, rubbing his hands together. "Yes, I heard," he said quietly. "She moved back last week." My stomach dropped. He already knew. He hadn't told me, hadn't mentioned anything. My mind filled with doubts and questions. Why hadn't he told me? Did he plan to see her? I tried to stay calm, but my voice trembled as I spoke. Are you planning to see her?" Tom looked back at me, his face serious. "No, Sarah," he said, reaching for my hand. "I have no reason to see her. My life is with you now. I told you, I am committed to us." I wanted to believe him, to feel comforted by his words. But knowing she was back, so close to us, made me feel uneasy. What if he ran into her by accident? What if he felt old feelings coming back? I tried to push those thoughts away, but they lingered in my mind. "But, do you still feel anything for her?" I asked, my voice almost a whisper. I hated asking, but I needed to know. He squeezed my hand, looking me in the eyes. "Sarah, I meant what I said. Emily was a big part of my past, but that's where she belongs now. I am with you. I love you, and that hasn't changed." I nodded, trying to take comfort in his words. But I still felt a small seed of doubt, a worry that I couldn't fully let go of. We sat in silence for a while, each lost in our thoughts. I wanted to feel close to him again, to feel like everything would be okay. But Emily's presence, even though I hadn't seen her, felt like a shadow over our marriage. Over the next few days, I tried to go on as usual, to focus on our life together. But Emily's return stayed in the back of my mind. Every time Tom was late coming home or got a message on his phone, I felt a small rush of fear. I knew it was silly, that I should trust him. But after reading those letters, trust didn't come as easily as before. One day, Tom noticed my silence. He looked at me with concern, his eyes searching mine. "Are you okay, Sarah?" he asked gently. "You seem distant." I forced a smile, not wanting to worry him. "I'm fine," I said, though I knew it didn't sound convincing. Just thinking." He reached out and took my hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "Sarah, please don't worry," he said softly. "I know Emily being back is difficult for you, but I promise, it doesn't change anything. I am here with you. I chose you, and I still choose you every day." I felt a bit of relief from his words. but I knew I still had to work through my own fears. I wanted to believe him, to feel secure again. And maybe, with time, I would. But for now, all I could do was try, one day at a time, to trust in his words and to believe in our love. As he held my hand, I felt a small glimmer of hope. Maybe we could get through this together. Maybe this was just another challenge, a test of our love. And as I looked into his eyes, I decided I would do my best to keep that hope alive, no matter how hard it might feel. A few days later, as I was at the grocery store picking up some things, I looked up and froze. There, standing just a few feet away from me, was Emily. I recognized her from the few photos I'd seen and from the way Tom had described her. Tall, with dark hair and an easy smile. She was beautiful, more beautiful than I expected. And seeing her there made me feel small and insecure all over again. My first instinct was to hide, to turn around and leave the store before she noticed me. But before I could move, she looked up and saw me. Her face lit up with a friendly smile, and she walked over to me. I felt my heart racing, unsure of what to say or how to act. "Hi, you must be Sarah," she said warmly, reaching out her hand to shake mine. "I'm Emily. I think we have someone important in common." I forced a small smile and shook her hand, feeling strange standing there with her. This was the woman Tom had loved, the woman he had written all those letters to. And now here she was, talking to me like we were just two regular people. "Yes, I'm Sarah," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's nice to meet you." We stood there in awkward silence for a moment, and I didn't know what else to say. Part of me wanted to ask her why she was back in town, if she was here to see Tom, but I didn't want to seem rude or desperate. Finally, she broke the silence. "I know it's probably strange to see me back here," she said, her smile fading a little. "I moved away years ago, and I never thought I'd come back. But life has a way of surprising you, doesn't it?" I nodded, feeling unsure of what she meant. Was she saying she wanted to reconnect with Tom? Did she want to come back into his life, now that she was here? The thought made my stomach twist, but I tried to stay calm. "Yes, life can be surprising," I replied, hoping she wouldn't see the worry in my eyes. Are you planning to stay long?" She nodded, looking thoughtful. "Yes, I am. I got a new job here, so I'm back for good. I think. For good." The words hit me hard, and I felt a wave of panic rising in me. Emily was back in town, close to Tom, and now she wasn't just visiting. She was here to stay. I didn't know how to feel or what to say, so I just nodded, trying to hide the fear I felt inside. "It's been nice to see Tom happy," Emily said, her voice soft. "I never got to meet you, but I'm glad he found someone who makes him smile." Her words surprised me, and for a moment, I felt a bit of relief. Maybe she wasn't here to take him back. Maybe she just wanted him to be happy. But it was hard to believe that, knowing all the love he had once felt for her. "Thank you," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "I love him very much." She gave me a warm smile. "I can see that. I know Tom well enough to see that he cares about you deeply. You must be a very special person." Her words felt sincere, but I still couldn't shake the feeling of worry. I didn't know if I could ever feel completely secure, knowing she was around. But seeing her now, talking to her face to face, gave me a strange sense of peace. She didn't seem like someone trying to cause trouble. She seemed genuine, like she had moved on. "Well, it was nice to meet you, Sarah," she said, giving me a gentle nod. "I hope we can be friends." I smiled, though I wasn't sure if that was possible. But I nodded anyway. "Yes, it was nice meeting you too, Emily." With that, she waved and walked away, disappearing down another aisle. I stood there for a moment, taking a deep breath and trying to process everything. Meeting her in person was strange, but it also helped me see that maybe she wasn't the threat I had imagined her to be. Maybe she was just a part of Tom's past, and I was his present. When I got home, I told Tom about the encounter. He listened quietly, nodding as I described how we had met by chance and what she had said. "She seemed nice," I told him, still feeling a bit shaken. "She said she was glad you were happy." Tom took my hand, looking into my eyes with a gentle smile. "I'm happy because of you, Sarah." You're the one I chose to spend my life with. Emily may be back in town, but that doesn't change anything for me. My life is with you." Hearing him say those words made me feel warm inside, like a weight was slowly lifting off my shoulders. I knew I would still have moments of doubt, moments when I felt insecure. But seeing Tom's face, feeling his hand in mine, helped me remember that he was here, with me. He had chosen me, and that was something I could hold on to. I took a deep breath, squeezing his hand. "Thank you, Tom. I needed to hear that." He smiled, pulling me close in a gentle hug. "Anytime, Sarah. I love you, and that's all that matters." In that moment, I felt a sense of peace. I knew the journey wasn't over, that I still had work to do to trust fully again. But meeting Emily had shown me that maybe, just maybe, I could move on from the past too. I could start to believe in the life Tom and I were building together, step by step. And as we stood there, holding each other, I knew that I was ready to try. A few days after meeting Emily, Tom came to me with a soft smile on his face. He seemed a bit nervous, which was unusual. He reached for my hand and asked, "Do you want to go for a walk with me?" I was surprised, but I nodded. "Yes, of course," I said. "Where do you want to go?" "There's a place I want to show you," he replied, his eyes warm but serious. "It's important to me, and I think it's time I share it with you." Curious and a little unsure, I put on my jacket and walked out with him. We didn't talk much as we walked, just holding hands and enjoying the quiet. The air was cool, and I wondered where he was taking me, but I trusted him. Finally, we reached a small park on the edge of town. It was quiet, with only a few people around, and the trees stood tall and still. Tom led me to a bench near a small pond. I looked around, feeling like there was something special about this place, though I wasn't sure what. He sat down beside me, taking a deep breath before speaking. "This place," he began slowly. "This is where I used to come with Emily. We had many memories here, some happy, some hard." I felt my chest tighten a little, but I stayed silent, listening. I could see that this was difficult for him, but there was something calm in his voice, too. "I wanted to bring you here," he continued, "because I don't want this place to be about the past anymore. I don't want it to be a place where I remember someone else. I want it to be a place where I can make new memories with you." His words touched me deeply. I felt my heart soften as I looked at him, feeling a new warmth in my chest. He was here, sharing this with me, choosing to bring me into a part of his life that he hadn't before. Felt like he was truly letting go of the past, opening up a new chapter just for us. "Thank you for bringing me here, Tom," I said quietly, my voice full of emotion. "It means a lot to me." He looked into my eyes, reaching into his pocket and pulling out something small. I saw that it was the box of letters, the same letters that had caused so much pain and doubt in my heart. He held it gently, his eyes full of sincerity. "These letters, they were my way of holding on," he said, his voice soft but steady. "But I don't need them anymore. I don't need to hold on to the past. Not when I have you here and now." I felt my heart pounding as I watched him open the box. One by one, he took out the letters, folding each carefully before placing them on the bench beside us. Then he looked at me, giving me a gentle smile. "I'm ready to say goodbye to this part of my life," he said, looking down at the letters. "Emily was important to me, yes, but you're my future. You're the person I want to build a life with, to make memories with." Without another word, he took a match from his pocket and struck it, lighting the corner of one of the letters. Slowly, he placed it on top of the others, and we watched as the flame spread, turning the papers into soft ashes. I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief, watching those letters burn. It was like watching the past disappear, fading into nothing but smoke. When the flames finally died down, Tom looked at me with a gentle smile. "Thank you for understanding, Sarah," he said. "Thank you for giving me the chance to let go, to move forward with you." I felt a tear slip down my cheek, but it wasn't a tear of sadness. It was one of relief, of gratitude. I felt lighter, like a weight had lifted from my heart. I leaned over, hugging him tightly, feeling his warmth and strength. I love you, Tom, I whispered, my voice filled with hope. Thank you for choosing me. He hugged me back, holding me close. I love you too, Sarah, he said softly. I am so lucky to have you. We sat there together, watching the ashes drift away with the wind, feeling the calm around us. The park, once a place of memories he had shared with someone else, now felt like ours. It was a place for us, a place where we could start fresh, with no shadows from the past. As we walked back home, hand in hand, I felt a new sense of peace. I knew there would still be challenges, still moments when doubt might creep back in. But I also knew that we were stronger now, ready to face whatever came our way together. That night, as we lay in bed, Tom held my hand, his fingers gentle around mine. I felt a quiet happiness, a feeling that everything was finally falling into place. I no longer felt like I was living in the shadow of his past. I felt like we were standing together, side by side, with our own future ahead of us. And as I closed my eyes, I knew that I was ready to move forward, to build a life with him that was filled with love, trust, and the promise of a fresh start.